Okay, so finally getting back to this video on the 69 Ford. I looked through what I had for footage. I had a couple clips there I was going through before doing some of the build and the uh, tear down build up for the paint, and then a big gap, and then you see the truck painted. Quite honestly, it took a couple months where it would just take whatever I had, a half an hour a day to sand, do whatever it took to get it looking good. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And I never thought of picking up a camera, else it would have been a year. So I'm going to include those first couple clips, try to talk over them. You can see kind of what it looked like before got down in the paint. And then there's I try to explain as much as I can of what's going on there, but and then you'll see the not the final product, but what it looks like today. I was just down there, and I finally got, thought I'm at a spot where I want to get the camera back out. And there was a point I didn't want to get the camera out because, quite honestly, I had some troubles with the paint. I was wanted to redo the hood and doors, and at first it didn't. I was having trouble with it reactivating the old clear coat or getting under it, and it just was not in a good mood. But it's still not perfect, but I managed to get those issues under control. So I'll put these other clips in there. Like I said, there's a couple I talked to no audio, so I'll just talk over them. And then the one from today where I just doing a walk around of the truck, what it looks like right now. Okay, hope you enjoy. Okay, so here I'm walking around to show you what the truck looked like after I stripped the wooden bed off and what it looks like underneath. You'll see this. The two main rails that come back were ones that I formed by cutting and just doing relief cuts and bending. The sidewalls are diamond plate steel, an eighth an inch, so they're pretty sturdy on their own. What I'm pointing out now is where I need to even up the ends of the frame because I bobbed it right behind the spring shackles. And those little jounces that supposed to limit the travel. I still haven't to this day put those in. But you'll see my pile of 2x6s there. So those are inch and a half thick. So when you see the finished product later on, you know that there's some beef to them. They're not just there for show. But I was going back and forth about whether I wanted to, have those D-rings on it, but I like the rough and ready look, and I decided to go with it. So there's the back. What I have to do is cut the back off in order to get the wood in or out. And later on, I showed with strips. I decided to do strips in between each one of the slats, and the same applies to that. They run the length of it, each one as well as the front and the back. But to get the bed disassembled, I literally got to take cutting wheel and cut the back off. Now I'm showing you where I put in the helper airbags. So went through, made some custom brackets. The bottoms would be attached to the U-bolts. I actually bridged the two U-bolts and created just did a stud and created a place to put them on the bottom and then on top, just kind of a regular bracket going to the frame. So I ended up mounting them right where I put them there. And for right now, I don't really have like a whole system. I just got them running to one place behind the passenger cab, the Schrader valves. And we'll get around to doing something a little more with that on the interior at some point, but kind of burned out on doing that for the time being. Showing this all before I got in there and painted it. At this point, this was all just tack welded to the frame. As I speak here, that's been all cleaned up, and I got it'd be eight bolting places. I guess maybe it's 10. 10 places where I can bolt the bed to the frame. But you can see how low it is right there, and it. I like it that way. That's what I wanted to do, was create for towing the ability to keep it low, but then add the air when I need it. I get that 700 pounds of hitch weight on it, and need to pump it up to the tow trailer. Hopefully, I talked a little bit about it in my last video here, but definitely want to haul the camping trailer and one way I want to use this is taking it to the campgrounds. Hopefully, the family and keep. We've been doing that for many years now, and hope to keep doing it. But I was just explaining a lot of the same things what I'm doing now. Those rails right there are an inch and a half below the top, so uh, the boards when they get laid on their side, they lay right on top of that, but they get tucked under that little C channel that you see going all the way around. Um, I also added at the front and back. I had to put a little bit extra uh, angle to hold it up underneath, um, and so there wasn't any opportunity for the boards to bend down. So here is my second clip of video, kind of coming at it from the same way, by going to talk about some different things with the build. You can see it's still blue, and there's a shot here where you can see at this point I haven't even fixed the cab corner on the passenger side. I kind of see it when I go here, but that was a day in itself. There's so many things I'm looking at here that just over the last couple months just consume the time, and it's hard to believe it looked this bad. But a lot of surface rust. Um, Looking in here, I want to do a gas tank is what I'm explaining. So right now I have uh, the gas tank behind the seat in the cab. But if I want to do an EFI system, then I'm going to need a high pressure fuel pump. And what I'm thinking of doing is putting another gas tank right there with the fuel pump. It can do EFI, and then at that point, the one behind the cab would just be like a transfer one where I could use it for extra capacity and have a crossover with a fuel pump. I've done similar things on my diesel truck, so I have some experience doing that, not getting myself in trouble. Uh, so uh, I have my mind on looking at a few tanks. I'd like it to be bigger than 19 gallons because then I'd be able to empty the entire uh, tank in the cab to the one that I'm going to someday put down there. So this was just explaining that in as much detail as I'm talking now, and you can kind of see the back of the cab. I was surprised that I did a lot of body work and took care of the big things. One of the panels was pushed in pretty far, but what I missed in all that was all the little things, and those are still on there now. Like I said, it's not perfect. Here, looking in where I had done started doing the soundproofing. I ended up doing soundproofing there um, in this roof under the hood. Uh, the floor, of course, has the carpet, and I got the kind of carpet that had like the sub carpet in, which only created a problem when I needed to drill through it for like the shift boot for the 4-speed. But yeah, it was really I put all new rubbers in the door, which was when I went at this point I hadn't done it yet, but that was a real taxing situation when I was trying to do that. And there's so many things here I decided to change. I got rid of those mirrors and in favor of new West Coast mirrors, but I used the same holes, and I instead of just I plugged the two front holes there for that support, but I end up using nut certs. Showing the gaps here in the front, I ended up pulling the trigger and allowing myself to get new fenders for this. But surprisingly, I only got the driver's side. There's a litany of, but I certainly recommend CJ's Pony Parts uh, in Harrisburg. They helped me out a lot here. And I still have some issues with this particular gap I'm looking at. The hood now has rubber between the cowl and the hood, but it's still just a little off in that one side. Um, so when you get to the next video, the cutover, you'll see what it looks like right now, and it's definitely much improved, but not perfect. So yeah, in a few seconds, it's going to cut over to that. I also made my own headliner out of stuff I got from like Joann Fabrics and a piece of 1/8" board. But hopefully in some upcoming videos we'll go into that, and I see it's about ready to cut over to the to. Yeah, so this happened. Didn't want anybody watch me sand, fill, paint, prime, repaint. A lot of little issues happen here and there. Not a perfect paint job. Got a few runs. I had a little problem with spider webbing. When you put down clear coat and then you want to redo it, I guess that the base coat can get into there and reactivate. But the bed, was all built and by me. I put these metal strips in between are actually functional. There's a piece of 1.5 inches going this way, so that it actually makes contact with the wood or to the underlying structure. So those strips are in fact structural. Got all the tags and everything working. Haven't tested. I want to test it pulling a trailer. I wanted to have it pull my camper this year, but I don't know how I feel about that. But not really, other than cosmetic as far as updates. I decided to pull the trigger on the red wheels because the inside's all red, black and red. Really, the idea came from that this was what I wanted, and I did everything else to match that. Ended up just using International Harvester red, but with new carpet, I think mechanically the only thing I really did was I put in the new fuel tank back there. But yeah, I already got the new carpet dirty. A few things, but 19-gallon fuel tank. Whatever spray. Haven't decided what I want to do about seats yet. I got a dash pad that I found out is just a cover, so I don't have the pad I need. I guess I could find an old derelict one and do that. But there's the update. We'll see how this goes, but not sure what I'm going to do to it next, but it should be interesting.